And we're live. Welcome to All Things Rex for the Rex Sikes Show. And today, my guest is a very special guest indeed. It is Mr. Ori Spado, known as the Hollywood Fixer, or otherwise known as the Accidental Gangster. You're going to love this show. Ori went from a life of crime to a life of compassion to humanitarianism and activism. We're going to talk to him, and I'm going to bring him on in just a moment. But before we do, you're watching the Los Angeles Tribune TV. We're streaming live on Facebook, live on YouTube, Periscope. We're also available on Roku TV. We record at this time. We stream live and record at this time every Thursday. So this is show number 2, and I'm so glad that you're here. Let me introduce you to my guest, Mr. Ori Spado, who's with us today. Hi, Ori. How are you, sir?
Rex, how are you?
I'm great, sir. I'm so glad to have you here with me.
My pleasure to be with you.
Well, you
such an honor to be with a man like you on the stage. Thank you.
Thank you. We share a platform, and I would say the same to you, sir. It is indeed an honor to have you here, and I'm so glad that and I feel privileged to know you. And let me say this. Let me actually ask you to tell a little bit about yourself, because I can't do that justice, but you literally have gone from hanging out with and working with and for and being, mafia and to a humanitarian and somebody who is helping people and helping children all around the globe. So can you start by telling us a little bit about your past and what we had a photo there. The Accidental Gangster. This is Ori's book. And you can get it from his website, theaccidentalgangster.com. And it's a riveting, fascinating tale of crime, of movies, the Hollywood movie industry, and more. So why don't you tell us about yourself and your book, Ori?
Well, Rex, thank you for asking. I was born in a small town in upstate New York, Rome, New York. I had a good childhood. We lived in a duplex home at 215 West Liberty Street. My parents, me, 2 brothers, 3 sisters on one side, and on the other side was my grandmother and grandfather on my mother's side and her brothers and sisters. And my mother used to cook every night for 13 people. And we were all at the dinner table every night. So, we didn't have much. My father worked at Revere Copper and Brass. My mother was a homemaker. I was a little bit different than my brothers and sisters. I skipped school a lot, even though I had good grades. I always had good grades in school, but I just skipped. And went to the pool room and things like that there. But at the age of 18, I joined the Army and ended up in airborne basic training in Fort Gordon, Georgia, outside of Augusta. And from there, I ended up with the 25th Infantry Division at Schofield Barracks, Hawaii, where I had an apartment in Waikiki. I was making $74.50 a month at the age of 18 years old in the U.S. Army. And I had an apartment in Waikiki that at that time was $150 a month. So obviously I was quite good with my money. But I was doing a lot of moving and shaking in Waikiki in those days. And I'll tell you, I just had a ball. And, I learned a lot in the military. You learn about respect, honor, loyalty, and patriotism. Okay? Those are things that you really learn. And I loved Hawaii. I've been back there several times since. And actually, someday I might eventually, hopefully, move there for my remaining days. If I ever retire, which I probably won't at the rate that I'm going.
Wow.
From the Army, and I After the Army, I had a job lined up with Pan American Airlines here in Los Angeles. I was engaged to a gal, and we wanted to get married. But when I came home, uh, I was staying at the Los Angeles Hilton right over here, and her father was against her marrying me. They had different religious beliefs than I did, and it was, anyways, I ended up going back to Rome, New York. I had a few odd jobs, and then I ended up in the insurance business with a Prudential insurance company, which was something that I really loved doing. And I was extremely successful at it, and I made a lot of money doing it. But I was very happy, very content, and I was really good at that there. And then from there, I ended up having my own insurance agency where I was a pioneer in the automobile after sale industry. So when you go and buy a car today and, they keep turning you over to another, this is my manager, this is my business manager, all that crap. Well, folks, you can blame me for that. I was the pioneer in it. And actually, one of the businesses I started is still in business called Centurion Automotive out of Syracuse, New York today. So, anyways, slowly but surely, I ended up meeting a lot of people. I got my first indictment out of Syracuse Federal Court in 1978, something like that. And my insurance license was taken away from me. And being a hustler, I had to make money. And I started having a lot of friends in La Costa Nostra in high places. I mean, there's a picture my friend had, and he was in London, passed away in 2007. Joey was with Ronnie and Reggie Gray. But, I met Meyer Lansky, Russell Buffalino, Frank Costello, Carlo Marcello, and then ultimately I ended up meeting Sonny Franchese, who I became close friends with for over 40 years until his death at the age of 103. And we were together on a RICO indictment out of Brooklyn Federal Court. And we both did our time. I got 62 months. I did my remaining years at Lompoc. Upon my release, I had 4 very strict regulations on my supervised release. So that's how I ended up writing my book.
Yeah, that's fantastic. What I wanted to ask you is, and I am glad that you went through that, because it was like how you went from your home in New York through your insurance business into the becoming a mobster, and then what happened subsequently. So can we go back just a little bit? And you and I have talked about this, off camera at different times, but what was it like being involved, being the Hollywood fixer? I mean, what kind of circles did you travel? You mentioned some of the people who you were involved with, but what did you do? And what was your job essentially? Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I could hear you. I didn't hear the whole question.
I said, given your occupation as a mobster, the Hollywood fixer, what was your job? What kinds of things did you do in Hollywood?
Well, in Hollywood, quite by accidentally, like everything else in my life, I knew Dino De Laurentiis, Ralph Serpi, when they had offices over here on Cannon Drive. And they had one of the films they were doing was going behind budget. An actor was giving a director a difficult time on the set, and they were pulling their hairs out, didn't know what to do. And I'm sitting in the office. I said, I'll go take care of that. They said, what? I said, yeah, I'll go handle it. No problem. So I went to the studio where they were filming, and I got a hold of the actor, took him in his trailer, and we had a talk, and things ran smoothly after that there, and everything worked out. From there, you know, my name leaked out to different people, agents, lawyers, studios, and so forth, and actors and actresses, and I did a lot of favors for a lot of people. Kept a lot of stuff out of the newspaper that could have been big, but I was able to, utilize my voice and my ability to put certain words in the right context that they should be put for people to understand what I was saying.
So that's a fairly interesting statement, to put words in a certain order that they could be appreciated and you were telling one time about saying like if somebody owed money, um, apparently you did some collections too.
Oh, I've collected millions of dollars. Yes.
So if somebody owes money, I owe somebody money. I owe them then like 15 grand or something like that, and I've got a deadline, and they send you out to me. What happens at that point if I can't pay?
Well, it has to be at the point that you couldn't pay before I would be getting involved.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And my first thing would be to, meet with you and see why you didn't pay. Okay. And then my next thing would be to explain to you why you should pay. You accepted the money. You gave your word on something, and now you need to keep your word. And from that there, I would explain to them.
It looks like Ori froze a bit, so we're going to hang tight while he does. But this is fascinating. I've heard Ori tell
Again, my voice, why they should pay that there. Sometimes the guy don't have the money, and it was 15 grand. I go, how much you got now? All right. And the first thing I would do with the guy, let me see your watch. He take his watch off. I take his watch. I put it in my pocket. Okay. It might be a watch. It might be a ring. It could be anything. I would take something to let him know, okay, I ain't screwing around here. It's called light intimidation. All right. In other words, I'm able to motivate people properly to do the right thing.
So I heard you say something about you owe $15,000 by such and such a day, but we're gonna make it $450 a week. Can you explain how that worked?
Oh no, that was with a bookie. Yeah, that was a very interesting thing. They have him right over here on La Cienega Boulevard. The guy was a stockbroker, had offices over here, and he was also a degenerate gambler. And he tried betting with the same bookie using another family member's name. So where he had a line of credit for like 7,500, he banged it out for 15 grand one weekend, and then he didn't have the money to pay it. So I went with my friend. It was Herb. His name was Herb Rubin. Really good guy. He was a bookie. And the guy said, "Oh, I'll have it for you next week." And the following week, I'm with Herb. We're in the car. I should call the guy, see if he's got the money. Herb called, and the guy's giving him some bullshit story. While Herb's on the phone, I said, drive over to La Cienega. And when Herb pulled up in front of the building, I said, keep talking to him. I went in the building, got in the elevator, went in, and there he is. He's on the phone. And then he looks, and he said, your friend is there. And I won. I said, I told you would see me again. I said, let me see your watch. Give me his watch. I said, is it real? He said, yeah. I said, good. I said, listen, I got good news for you, and I got bad news. I said, the good news is you don't have to worry about paying the 15 grand to Herb no more. You don't owe him. You owe me. I said, the other good news.
And Ori froze. So we'll wait just a second while we get Ori back. The advantages and disadvantages of streaming live is remarkable. But you can get his book again at the accidentalgangster.com. And you're going to want to go because he goes deep into stories like this. And the mob psychology stuff and everything is just absolutely incredible. It's also available on Audible, but I recommend that you get the book. Ori, he froze again.
There you are.
We lost you. Yes, we lost you right at the point where you said, I got the watch. And I said, okay.
I got the watch, put it in my pocket. I asked him if it was real. He said, yeah. I said, I got good news for you and bad news. I said, the good news is you don't owe her any more money. I said, you owe it to me. I said, and I got more good news. I said, you don't have to pay me the whole $15,000. In fact, I don't want it. I said, I want you every week. You're going to pay me $450. I said, you never have to worry about the $15,000 no more. That should be a good relief. Every week, $450. I'll be here every Friday. You have that. I said, no, you also understand that does not go towards the principal. That's only the victim. And he nodded. He said, okay. I said, I'll see you next Friday. Monday morning, Herb called me. He said, the guy found the cash, paid me. I went seeing Herb. He gave me my half.
So it's fair to say that a lot of what you do is leverage situations.
Yeah, I call myself a motivator. I motivate people to do the right thing.
Right now, staying with the just for the time being, at least with the crime families that you worked with and for, they were not strangers to violence, and many of the people that you fraternize with were otherwise known as killers. But at the same time, I mean, could you talk a little bit about, I guess, the psychology? These very same people who are killing were family men, and they had a code of honor between them, and a loyalty that I guess in some ways is unparalleled in many ways. Is that fair to say? And at the same time, they could commit atrocities, and but somehow they kept that separate from their families, and they didn't want their kids to go into the business and things. Can you talk?
Once again, the volume went off, and I didn't hear the whole question, Rex. I apologize. All right, the screen went dark again.
Really? Well, we're having, maybe it's because of the weather, but the question that I had is that some of the gangsters that you associated with were ruthless and were known to kill, and at the same time they were family men and they had children that they didn't want to go into the life of crime. So can you talk about the kind of loyalty and code of honor that they could compartmentalize their lives in such a way that they could be doing these kind of horrific acts and at the same time be decent family men?
Well, you got to understand something, okay? And what you must understand is, in the life, if we refer to it as the life in La Costa Nostra, okay? How we live our life. But we live our life, all right? We take care of our friends, our neighbors, and especially our families. We had a discussion with somebody yesterday, how safe the neighborhoods are when we're living in those neighborhoods. All right, you don't see no crime. All right, they're very safe neighborhoods. But we take care of people. We're not bad guys like you see on the screen, and we go out and killing everybody every day. No, it don't happen. But when somebody does get killed, there is a good reason for it. Okay? And they broke one of the rules. There are rules that they must abide by. We must abide by. It's no different than a legitimate world. We just have different rules. Okay? We don't call them laws, we call them rules. And, there's things like, should never date another man's wife or girlfriend. All right. You never hit another made man. All right. That's that. Okay. There's several different reasons why somebody will get whacked, and they deserve it. It's part of the game. It's part of the life, and it's just work.
Wow. Well, there are a lot of people who are watching this, listening to this, or reading your book who, are not familiar with this at all, or would disagree with you, or find it shocking or atrocious, and yet that was a life that you lived and continue to live until your arrest. And it looks like we're frozen again. And I bet when he comes back, he'll say, I didn't hear the whole question.
You hear me? There we go. Okay, yeah, June 2008. All right, 20-something FBI agents circled the block, my building, and chained and shackled me, just like they said they would do in 1997. Yeah, an FBI agent said, I will see the day you are chained, shackled, put on Con Air, and brought to Brooklyn. And I thought, yeah, okay. I laughed at him. It was 1997, 2008, 11 years later, made it a reality.
And you were arrested and charged with what?
I was charged, they need 2 predicate acts under the RICO. So I was charged with a home invasion robbery and distribution of cocaine, 50 kilos or more.
And you served 5 years?
62 months.
Wow.
Plus 4 years, very strict supervised release. It was so strict that the judge even put it in, if it's illegal in Mr. Spado's head, okay? I mean, he put that far.
So, what happened to you? I mean, I don't want to paint any kind of picture, because what you just said about, there were people you lived or worked inside an organization in which it was rule governed, and there was the people were loyal to each other and had rules that you never broke, a code essentially, and at the same time, some of the penalties for breaking the code were obviously killing or violence of some form, and yet you say that the neighborhoods were free of crime because nobody was going to mess with us. Essentially, we kept them free and clear. So you are now arrested. You spend 62 months in prison. The transformation, because I know you to be a very kind, generous, humanitarian guy who's out helping the world, helping feed people, helping young people. What changed for you? And it's to try and help the audience understand that transformation, and what you experienced to go from, working in a criminal organization to being a humanitarian and an activist.
Well, I got to be honest with you. Being on the streets out here in Los Angeles, I was doing a lot of my own things. I was making a lot of money. Made a lot of nice scores. I sort of enjoyed it, I gotta be honest. But, at the end of the day, when I got arrested, and I was locked up in 30 months in Brooklyn, MDC, Brooklyn. And, listening to my discovery, noting, things have changed so much. You can't fight the FBI. You can't fight DEA. You cannot fight these people. They got all the money, all the time, and they got all the best equipment. Okay, they don't wire people up like you see in a movie by taping something in their chest. No, it's in their watch. It could be in their eyeglass frame. It could be any place. You will never detect it. And things changed. In 1960 something, when they began the WITSEC program. Up until that time, anybody to try to become an informant, they were killed. They were killed quickly, and they were not in a nice way. Okay, I don't want to say how people might get sick, but there was a way of doing it, and that all changed with the WITSEC program. People testifying, people becoming informants. The RICO Act come into play, okay, which is illegal and unconstitutional, but you can't beat it. No way you could beat it. You could beat your actual predicate acts, but they don't tell the jury. The jury thinks, "Oh, I just convicted him. I found him guilty on a RICO." They think it's nothing. They don't know that the RICO holds up to 20 years. Each RICO. I had two, which could have been 40 years. At my age, that would have been a death sentence. Okay, I had two co-defendants who got found guilty of all the murder charges. Exonerated, not guilty. But one had one RICO act. The judge gave him 17 years. The other one had 5 RICO acts. He could have gotten 100. The judge gave him 50 years. The juries don't know this. They don't know what the sentence is, which I feel is wrong. I feel the jurors should know that, because it would make a change in how jurors, find people guilty or not guilty of certain charges. Okay, and I feel that when a judge does give his jury instructions, he should be allowed to tell them that, which he's not. Okay, the other thing is, what was the other thing? The minimum mandatory sentencing guidelines. Okay, they should be abolished. And because what you're basically doing, and it's right in my statement, when the judge sentenced me, he said, "Mr. Spado, on the robbery charge, I'm giving you 60 days. He said, but on the 924C gun charge, my hands are tied by Congress, and I have to sentence you to 60 months. My hands are tied by Congress. Why should Congress? Why do you got judges if we got Congress telling people what they got to sentence somebody to? You don't need a judge. You got Congress. Okay, that's wrong. So, after I did my 5 years, 2 years ago, U.S. Supreme Court said 924C gun charge is illegal and unconstitutional. Okay, boom, it's gone. But they can't give me my 5 years back, right? There's no way they could replace that. I did my time. But, it's good for the other people who got that charge. But I feel very confident that if my judge's hands were not tied, he would have gave me time served. That's what they used to do back in the old days. You got no idea how it is when you're housed in a place like MDC Brooklyn, old dilapidated building, all right, with rats running around, cockroaches. It's horrible. All right.
So let me ask you this, Ori. I mean, what I really, really do appreciate about you in knowing you is you are a straight shooter. I've never heard you, equivocate. I've never heard you pull any punches. If you are direct and you're honest, and with that in mind, a number of people might say, "Well, you got 5 years or 6 years. You got 6 years, and you're blaming the Constitution. That after 2 years after you got out of jail or out of prison, that they took it away." But they would say, "Well, but you got away with all sorts of other crimes, during your entire career." And while I would argue that you were charged with something for whatever reason and not charged with other things, so that's
Yeah, you're right upon what you're saying. Yes, and invariably, not only myself but others, we realize that the charges they bring us to are bullshit charges, but they were never able to get us on other things. Yes, we did other things, but we never got caught doing. Okay, so are we guilty? Yes, but you know what? I'll bring you the wealthiest families in this country and around the world. The wealthiest. And I guarantee you, the majority of them all earned their money illegitimately, all right? But they were smart enough to take it and bring it legal, okay? And now they're the top 1% of the people in the country who make the laws.
Well, that's if anybody were to know the background of a lot of the people, it would be yourself, sir. I mean, you didn't travel in circles, the kind of circles you traveled in, without, I'm sure, being privy to all sorts of different things. But going back to your incarceration and the transformation, because you do lots of good things now, and you had done lots of crimes then. And what happened inside Ori Spado that said, I'm not going to live a life of crime anymore. I'm going to use my experience, my influence, my background for good now instead of for crime now?
Well, in my book, I talk about that by me writing this book, if I kept one young man out of prison, then the book was well worth it. I happen to know I kept several young men out of the life. And so I'm very happy about that. The other thing is, in the epilogue of my book, all right, the last paragraph is, I ask everybody to hold hands together, and together we can make this world a better place. And I firmly believe that. But it's got to start with we, the people. Now, I did write that somewhere in my subconscious mind. It was there. And, it's just starting to come out of me more and more. And being in one percenters with what happened with Mr. J. Nolan, okay, and HR 2668, all my life I've always been for the underdog. So that's never going to change for me. I'll always be for the underdog. And I began my fight using my brain, the way I'm able to do things, the people I'm able to get through to. All right. I have an ability that when I want to get through to somebody, I'm able to, no matter what their office might be or what position they have in life. So, I've been fighting for that there, and I became a major advocate on that there, along with Miss Jody Bear, a great lady, very astute, and she's very tenacious, a lot like Ori Spado is. So, things just happen, and now, we live in a country, we got 53 million people that are starving, are going to bed every night with hunger. And that should not be in our country, the United States of America.
Well, while you've been talking, there's an event that's coming up that's been in front of you, and it's the charity event for food finders with Ori Spado on June 17th. So that's coming up, and that is you're playing poker. Is that it for to help feed people?
Yeah. I'll be.
Can we take that down?
I'll be playing poker, and people will be able, I think, for $100, sit down at the table and play poker with me. So it'll be fun.
Do they have a chance if they play poker with you?
Yeah, everybody's got a chance. Actually, my preference of games is blackjack.
Okay. So let's continue this because this is, I think, where a lot of people are really fascinated. You're reformed gangster. You're now using your power, even your connections, but I don't want to make that sound like they're criminal connections, but you're using your ability to get to the right people and your know-how that was, came from years of experience in the underground, essentially, to do good things and to make things happen. I also know that you give away a whole bunch of like Napoleon Hill books to school kids and stuff.
Oh, I've given in my lifetime. I've given hundreds of Napoleon Hill books away to different people, and
Look, looks like Ori froze. See, this is when you can put up the. Look, maybe he's coming back.
To become an actress out here in Hollywood.
I'm sorry.
There was a young lady. She was an extremely beautiful lady that I met in New York, and she was a model, for like Macy's, Saks, Brooks Brothers, and she wanted to become an actress. She and I became quite close, and when she was leaving, she lived out in Yonkers, New York. And when she was coming here, the last time I saw her, I gave her the book, Think and Grow Rich. And I said, read this book. Don't let it go. Remember all the things you're going to learn in that book. And boom, she left, came to Los Angeles. It was many years later that I was up at Scandia, up on Sunset Boulevard. And a friend of mine says, hey, I ran into so-and-so last night. Really? I says, give me her number. Give me a number. I called her. And we had lunch over at, I think it was the Barefoot on 3rd Street. A dinner we had. And by this time, she was making $25,000 a week. She was a major star on a soap opera show. And she was asking me for help now on how to invest her money. As a con man, that was a great opportunity for me to take it. But I did not. I told her, talk to your agent. He'll hook me up with a good manager and so forth, I said. And then she opened her purse and she took out the book, Think and Grow Rich, that I had given her. It was tittered. It was tattered. She said, I never go anyplace without this book. So, the power of that book. I have 3 children. Sometimes you get tired of hearing me, but they'll all repeat it. What the mind can conceive and believe you can achieve. Persistence wears down resistance. I can do it. I can do it. And you can do it. My children, thank the Lord. Okay, they're all good children. I never wanted them to have anything to do with the life. And when I got out of prison, I made a promise that I could never break to my children that I would leave the life and not go back to prison. And that there, I will keep my word on. And, I always take full responsibility for everything I've done in my life, good, the bad, the indifferent. Okay, I did it. I own it. Nobody else. It's mine. It was my destiny. I feel it was laid out for me. And what I'm doing now is part of my life that I was meant to be doing, and I'm very happy doing it.
Well, that's fair enough. Let me, while I'm getting some feedback, but let me open it up to anyone who has questions that they might want to ask, in our time remaining with you while we discuss. And if we get a question, we can either put it up and let us know what it is, and you have the opportunity to answer it. But I am a huge proponent of what you just said, and as was Hill, and that is to take full responsibility and be accountable for everything that you do, good, bad, right, or wrong, at all times, and not blame circumstances or events or other people, because when you do, you give your power away.
That's right.
And then the second to that is, if you can conceive it and believe it and be certain that you can do it, you actually then make it happen. And so it's not about a wishing tree or a wishing cow or a magic wand where things just pop. It's about actually using your imagination and then putting steps into action to bring things about. And certainly you absolutely have done that, not all of your, I mean, all of your life, but also now um, with what you're doing by helping people and by these different events that you have. And I know that you speaking to high school kids and grade school kids and things a lot.
Yeah, well, that's just beginning. I got a call from somebody in the charter school system. I got another call for somebody that wants me, but schools, schools just getting off for the summer now.
Right.
But there are different organizations I'll be going to and speaking. I'm supposed to be going to London. Okay, I'm waiting for my friend Marvin Hebert. Uh, he wants me to come over there. He's working with the city of London, of going into prisons, going on the streets, talking to gangbangers, and trying to convince them to, get out of that criminal life. All right, get an education, get a trade, find something they love to do, and so I'll be very excited when I get over there and I'm able to get to London and do that with him. So.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad. I mean, there are people in the chat room, and they are asking questions. So Mo Rock, who I believe you know.
Yes, I've heard of him.
What life lesson can you share, Ori, for business owners and CEOs?
For business owners and CEOs of companies, don't ever let anybody sway you in your beliefs. Stand up for your rights, okay? Remember, there's going to be a lot of people around you who are going to be jealous or greedy about your success. You have to go with your gut, who you are. Keep always focused. It's very important. Keep focused on what you're doing, what your goals are. It's all in your mind. And anybody can become successful. I begin my day. When I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is make my bed. Because you keep an orderly house, then your head's going to be in an orderly fashion. And I always try to begin my day by making other people happy. Okay, no matter if you just say, "Good morning, Rex, how you doing?" People respect it and love it when you remember their name. It seems like it's such a no-no, but it's a big thing. You know, and always remember, it's the small things that count. All right, you do little things, and they could bring back big rewards. So, be kind to everybody. Go along. Go with your heart, your head. What the mind can conceive and believe, you will achieve.
That's awesome. That's very cool. We have somebody named Trevor who's online and in the chat room. He said, "What about people with disabilities like myself with things that are limited to them?"
Trevor, I met several people with different disabilities. I know it's tougher, but even with your disabilities, everything is in your head and what you can do. Okay? You just had to become stronger than a lot of people. You got to still have the desire, and everything that I've been talking about applies to people with disabilities, maybe more so, because you might have to try harder, work harder at it. But if you consistently doing it, it will become second nature to you. Okay? See, I mean, I don't have to read a book. I've read them all. I've lived it. I've done it. But you got to consistently do it. It's got to be part of your everyday life. It's not something you can say, "Well, I'm going to do it tomorrow." No, you got to do it now. Trevor, I hope that helps. If not, please DM me and I'll, talk with you and see what I can do to help you out more. Thank you, Trevor. What's the one way to succeed? There's more than one way to succeed, but everything, John, is in the mindset. I keep going back to the mindset. Everything begins here in our head. Okay? So you got to have the right mindset to succeed. You got to believe in what you're doing. You got to be happy at what you're doing. I hope that helps you, John.
Yeah, that's awesome. We have another question, and it is from John Cooper, who says, "What's the one way to succeed?"
I answered that.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did. I had to turn and take care of my dogs for a second, so I didn't see that question. So, Ori, we got a little bit of time left here. We got a few minutes left. From your book, The Accidental Gangster, is there one story, one bit of information that you want the listeners, the watchers right now, to kind of to tantalize and tease them with, but just a really cool story that you'd like to share?
Well, in the gangster world, I was actually quite unique in my mindset there. Okay. I've done a lot of remarkable things. One thing that I did do was I robbed an LA City jail of cable boxes. How I did it, how I planned it, it was that's part of the book that they should read. I've had people in Hollywood ask me the same question, and that's one part of my book that they could take out and do a total movie just on that part, and I would make it a comedy. Actually, I could see Seth Rogen being in that there. But another thing though, that my business successes, they're all in there.
Well, speaking,
And all the lessons that I learned are there. We had a gal on a show one night, Mr. Mo Rock and myself, with a girl named Zahara. When I got through, she had made a list of 17, all right, positive, motivational things, all right, that came out of my book, out of my just talking to her. 17 that one night.
that's right. Very, very cool.
So it's in there.
So let me ask you this. Also, right now, you have a director and some writers working on turning your book and your life into a feature film. Can you talk a little bit about that process and what's going on?
Yes, I have.
And Ori froze. When he freezes.
There we go.
There we go.
I have George Gallo, writer, director, done several movies. Got one coming out next month. The Comeback Trail with Robert De Niro, Morgan Freeman, Tommy Lee Jones, and a big cast that'll be out in the theaters next month, July. And I have a young man named David State Seinhook, a very creative individual. He spent a lot of time with me and my son who lives here. My son Anthony, that's him in the picture back there. So we're going to see the first draft of it by Monday, he said today. So I'm excited. I got people that, we got good names, but Rex, you know how Hollywood is. Okay? It's like the Army. Hurry up and get there. When you get there, wait.
That is very true. That is very true about Hollywood. Hurry up and wait.
Right.
Well, that's exciting news, though. It is so exciting. And let's talk a little bit about the One Percenters, because you are quite an icon and quite a fixture in the One Percenters. One Percenters Only is a group of people on Clubhouse that Jay Noland and Mo Rock put together a group essentially to help change the world. And One Percenters Only means 1% of all the people on the planet who could do good have the ability to affect change in the entire world. It's not about the 1% of people who have hoarded all the wealth and or like you said, all the rich people who have done it illegally and now have a facade of legitimacy. This is about 1% of the people just taking one. If we had only 1% of the planet working to do good, we could change the planet, and we now know we've been talking with Dame Doria Cordova and DC Cordova about the amount of money it would take to feed the entire planet. And
$300 million.
Yeah,
$300 billion.
Isn't it amazing, though? I mean,
yeah, $300 billion. That's the feed of.
Again, Ori froze. Gotta love live streaming. I sure do. Makes me think on my feet. But this is when we need to have a photo come up, and this is when we won't have one come up. I bet I can promise you that we won't see one pop up anytime soon. But so let me tell you this again. Ori Spado's one of the 1%ers only. You can find it through Facebook. There's a 1%ers fan club on Facebook. By the way, you can always watch this show on the Facebook streaming live. Oh, there's Ori back.
Yeah.
Watch. I'm going to finish up. You can watch the Los Angeles Tribune show, all things Rex, every Thursday from 3 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Central, and 6 p.m. Eastern. You'll have to check your own times other than that, but it streams live from the Facebook Los Angeles Tribune page. And while you're there, or if you're on YouTube, or if you're watching on Roku or wherever, go ahead and hit the like buttons if there are. Subscribe to the channels, because that will give you notifications when the show is airing and when it's coming up. So you'll have ample opportunity to catch it live and or see the replay. But go ahead and leave likes, because when you leave likes and leave comments or questions, and we'll try and get all your questions answered. But if you leave comments and questions, it also helps, the algorithms, the powers that be that let people know about the show, or let people know that it's on Facebook. So go ahead and do that. I'm going to have it streaming from my wallet sometime, my profile on Facebook as well. So Ori, you were saying, we'll go back to what you were saying.
Yeah, $300 billion a year to feed all the hunger in the world. Now, to most people, $300 billion sounds an astronomical amount of money, because most people don't even know how many millions are in a billion. Okay, and most people do not know what a million is. But when you think of the wealth of our world, the entire world, you think of the number of billionaires that you have, who probably are not going to give you too much. But let's forget about those. What about every country? What about every country? If they gave 200 million, 500 million, $500 million, $1 billion, depending on the size of the country, why isn't this being done? And that's something I'm going to have to talk with Doria about.
Well, that's
a different approach.
That is a truly fascinating question. And also, when you consider it, if you suddenly my book pops up, you can pull the book down and we'll put it up later. But thank you for that. Very cool.
Wait, Rex, was that really your picture on the book?
Yeah, that's my picture on the book there. Yeah, that's me.
You look like you got an orange jumpsuit, and it looks like a prison picture.
I should have trademark. It should be okay, take the photos down. There's Ori. He just got out of prison. He's getting his meal at In-N-Out Burger. So, Ori, what I wanted to say was, you're absolutely right. When you think about every country, like if you think about the trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars that we have available, and when we need money, we just print more money, or what China has, or any large nation, but all the nations of the world, if you took their combined wealth, I mean, I can't think that high, in terms of how much money there is. So $330 billion really is an insignificant amount to feed every human being on the planet. And the fact that it's not being done is in fact criminal. I mean, that is the travesty and tragedy that occurs on a daily basis, that there are children starving and parents starving and people not having enough food to eat. all over the planet. And usually it's just because they don't have the access to it and they're being prevented from having that access.
Rex, and just the United States alone, we have 54 million people that are starving, going to bed hungry at night in the United States, and supposed to be the greatest country on earth. But how are we the greatest country on earth when other countries are looking at us and saying, why do they have so many people starving? Why do they have so many people living on the streets? Why are they having all those problems? Why are we having the problem in this country? I don't see them in other countries. So internally.
So you think it's a matter of economics? There's no money in homelessness. There's no money in feeding the poor. There's no money in, because if there were a profit, you could bet that they'd be doing something about it. But as long as it's helping somebody or possibly welfare, it would appear.
Lark, I'm in an interview. Man, it's 4 o'clock.
It's okay.
Not 4 o'clock, yeah.
Well, and we're almost done because I know your time is precious.
Yeah.
And things to do as well. But do you think it's just a matter of sheer economics, and that, especially in our country, that if there were a profit in making sure that everybody had a home, that everybody would have a home? Why do you think
I think that, the way things, my friend Tommy DeMar, I'll never forget, we were having a cocktail at my friend Bucky's, my cousin Bucky's place many years ago. I'm talking about the time, when, there was one car for every household, okay? And you started to see maybe 2 cars when women started going to work. And he told me, our country was not set up to have a middle class. Our country was set up for either the rich or the poor. And I believe that's still the truth. That's not going to change. They don't want it to change. They want give the people welfare, give them food stamps, let them stay at home and be under the thumb. You put on the television. I can't even put it on anymore. I don't even know why I'm paying for cable anymore, because why get negative? All they're giving you is negativity. Why my son was telling me, Dad, don't watch that crap. Why do you gotta get negative for? All right, my children telling me that. And they're right. It's nothing but negativity. And people sit there and they watch it all day. Why? Be happy.
Well, you are so right, Ori. You are absolutely right. And I think you froze again, but I will comment, and I hope you can hear me. Take my book down, please. We'll put it up later. That's funny. I think you're absolutely right, Ori. And I do think that it's people like yourself and people like the viewers and the watchers, and it's even little shows like this one, or the efforts of a larger body like the Los Angeles Tribune that's trying to get the word out. And I do firmly believe that we sit on the precipice of a great awakening, and never in the history of our humankind have the last, say, 5 or 6 years been so turbulent for us as citizens to find out that there's such great disparity between the rich and the poor, the haves and the have-nots, the inequalities, the access to resources, and the limitations. And I think people are finally, and the systemic racism and hatred and the intolerance that goes all over, whether it's gender, racial, political, religious, you name it, that we're waking up. And whenever there's waking up, there always seems to be a little bit of turbulence at the same time.
Rush, I think, what you just said is true. I think eventually we'll see the benefits of social media come out in a more positive way, because now more people have the ability to learn more than they've ever
So Lori is
was an excellent discovery because people, and like we do on the 1%er, people get the freedom. They could talk to somebody. They could learn from somebody. And this is what it's about. And as soon as people start learning, and start getting educated more, our education system in this country is horrible. It's terrible. When I first came to California in 1971, we were #1 in the country in education. And I think today we're about 40 something. All right. Why? Why are your kids not educated? Why are they not teaching our children in school simple things of how to live a life? Why are they not teaching what you're teaching? All right, to be positive, to be happy. Okay. I don't even know what they're teaching in school anymore.
I agree with you. I agree. They've been showing my book, Life on Your Terms. I'm going to talk about that when we close out the show. But I've written another book called The Battle for Your Heart, Mind, and Soul, which I had hoped to have out last year. I started it right about the time the lockdown happened. And I had given away a free program at the time to help people get through the pandemic and get through the lockdown. But it is true that there's concerted effort to keep people dumb, to keep them, divided, to keep them negative, to keep the disparity so great that they can never do anything and never rise up and never take advantage of all the good and all the resources that are available to us. And it's sad, but I do think, as I said, that people like yourself, and that because of the pandemic and the lockdown, and what you said about social media, I don't mean to be pointing at you, but is, I said this a while ago. We happen to have a lockdown where we're isolated, self-isolated, and yet we had at that time the wherewithal to be able to connect through Zoom and through social media, so that we were never, even though we were physically isolated, we could still continue conversations. We could have discussions, we could do seminars or workshops, we could have live events, because our technology was in place prior to being locked down. And so,
right.
We're fortunate in that way, that innovation precedes oftentimes great difficulty, and great difficulty gives birth to more innovation. And so, with every cause, there's an equal and opposite effect. So, we'll always have some pushback when there's good things, and we'll always have some good things when there's not so good things, and that just seems to be the nature of the world. But people are and
look at what you and I are doing. Okay, normally this would have been, we would have had to go to a studio someplace,
right,
and sit down, and I wouldn't be allowed to smoke. See, this is why I love it.
And I love that you love it, and I've loved having you as a guest story. So I'm going to have to say goodbye because we're running out of time there. I'm going to close out the show in just a moment and let people know. But you have been fascinating. I want to tell people to, again, get your book. They can go to the Accidental Gangster.com and they can order the book directly from you. And if they do, are you signing the books, or what are you doing?
I'm signing the books, and I'm giving away a free audio.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
All right. That's only if you mention you saw it on this show, you'll get a free audio.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. So if they mention All Things Rex, they get the free audio.
Mention All Things Rex, and I give you a free auto.
Oh, that's truly a deal. Well, that's
with the purchase of the book.
With the purchase of the book. Oh, absolutely. And they can get that right from the website.
All right.
So, Ori, I want to say thank you so much for being here. I know your time is valuable and you're going to run, so we'll say goodbye. And
my pleasure, Rex.
I thank you so much. My name is Rex Sikes, and I am so happy to have the opportunity with Ori. I was going to say I'll see you a little while later because he and I are going to be somewhere else with some other cool people like Mo Rock and Jay Nolan and Natalie Forrest and others. So I'm looking forward to that. And the One Percenters Only, you can get that. You find out that about the One Percenters Only on Facebook at the fan page. You can go there and explore it. And also you can watch the show on the Los Angeles Tribune Facebook Friends page. Be sure that you do. It streams every Thursday live at 3 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Central, and 6 p.m. Eastern time. It's also on YouTube. So you can go to YouTube. When you do subscribe, like the Facebook page, subscribe at YouTube, hit the like button, leave questions and comments so that we can answer them and read them, because that's what we like to do. And then when you subscribe or like the pages, what happens is you'll be notified when the shows air. So that's an advantage that you have, that you don't have to track that. The 1%ers are on Clubhouse, and you can join that. You can look for that room on Clubhouse as well. If you haven't already joined, you're going to want to, I'm sure. And I'm Rex Sikes, and my book is Life on Your Terms. And I wrote this book so that people could take back their lives and live lives on their terms to create the life that you want. And what I'm doing with the purchase of this book is I'm giving you a $500 training. It's a $497 valued training, absolutely free, on mastery and how you master things and make positive habits so that whatever you want to learn, you can learn with greater ease and fun and with pleasure, and make it stick so that as you apply it and as you use it, you can transform your life. But that means if you want to be a better piano player or a better cook, somebody who can sew, someone who can dive or swim or whatever it is you want to do, or think positively and manage your mindset, your feelings, and your behavior so that you can create the wealth, the health, the happiness that you absolutely deserve, you're going to want to go get the book and get the absolutely my bonus gift to you. And if you go to rexsikes.com/LOYT, that's rexsikes.com. We'll put it in the chat room if we can, or maybe Mo can put it up on the screen. rexsikes.com/LOYT. It will tell you exactly how you claim your free training when you purchase the book from Amazon. And if they don't do that, I will try and do that before we close out. And lastly, my next guest is an amazing person who's decided to take Parkinson's to the top of Mount Everest. This is a gentleman. I won't tell you who he is yet, but next week, what's going to happen? There you go. Thank you for putting that up there, Mo. The gentleman who has Parkinson's and decided that he didn't want Parkinson's to hold him back, and so he's been running marathons. He's become a racer, and he does a number of incredible things. And his goal is to get it to the top of Mount Everest next year. And so he's preparing for that trip. I'm going to have him here next Thursday at the same time in the same place at the Los Angeles Tribune TV. So join me then. I'm Rex Sikes, and if you consider everything a blessing, everything is a blessing. And I think I was, and I sure hope you were, blessed to hear this discussion with Ori Spado. Also, go back and watch my very first show with Michael Warkentin and Maggie Avila. Now I'm massacring your name. She's a documentary filmmaker and an actress who has got a show right now with Danny Trejo on Amazon Prime. And we did a show last week. It's episode number 1 about Michael's transformation from quadriplegic at the age of 22 from a 3-story fall into an entrepreneur who travels the world doing good and helping others. So be sure to go back and watch that show. Watch this show as well. If you consider everything a blessing, everything is a blessing. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Mo. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, everybody who's leaving comments. Continue to do so. Thank you, Scott Harris. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And be sure to celebrate everything.